All right, gang. The last lecture, and I forgot to start the recording when I gave it, so I'm going to give it again. That's all right. It's actually a very short lecture this time. What are we going to do? Well, so far, all of the applications we have made have been text-based, right? I mean, this isn't idle and this isn't Python, but you know what I mean. You get a little window and you get to type stuff into it, and it displays things as text and you type it in as text. Well, wouldn't it be cool if we could write an application that had buttons that you could click and fields on the screen where you could move your mouse over them and type them in rather than just have to do things one at a time like that? So we're going to make a little application that does that. And what it's going to do is it's going to display a couple input boxes where you can type in a first name and a last name, and it's going to have a button. And when you click on the button, it says hello to that person with the first name and last name. So hello, John Jacob, or whatever. And to do that, we're going to use a library called tkinter, tkinter, like interface. I don't know what the TK stands for. Anyways, let's pop open idle and get to it. So this is lecture X. Save it as X2, right? X2. All right. So X CIT1113 using tkinter to create a graphical user interface. Interface? How about interface? Right. Okay. So to get this to work, we're using a tkinter library. So I'm going to add an import statement from tkinter import everything. And now, although this is silly, it's strangely necessary to use one of the features. If we want to use what's known as a message box, we have to add one more import, which is to tkinter import message box. Now, it's not necessary every time to do this, but I've seen the problem come up often enough where students' programs would not work until they added that. And it happened to me just this morning. So I'm going to put it there just for safekeeping. It looks ludicrous because if you've already imported everything, you should not have to import message box in a separate command. But what are you going to do? All right. So we want a window to draw in. So I'm going to say window equals capital T, lowercase k, and then some parentheses, right? Don't need the space between the parentheses. And so when I run it, we get our little window. Let's make that a little bit smaller. We're not going to need much room for our window. So we're going to add a geometry statement. The geometry statement is just going to set the width and the height of the window. So when.geometry, make a call to the geometry function. And inside the parentheses, we need to put some quotes. 300 by 85. It's going to be a small window. That's okay. Now let's run it. Right? There's our window. That's the size of it. It's just going to be big enough for 2 lines of text and a button. All righty. Now let's set the title, because when we ran it, it had a silly little title of TK. That's boring. Let's put a title like the title of our class or something, right? CIT1113. Or, you know, you can put whatever you want to. You can put your name in the title or something. Whatever seems reasonable. Okay, now when we run it, CIT1113. All right, now we want some fields to be able to type in, but the user's not going to know what to type in unless we give some labels telling them what those fields mean, right? The places to type in. So we need some text on the screen. And we do that with the label control. And people call them widgets, the label widget. And we make them like this. Label with a capital L. And we're going to attach that label to our window. We need 2 of them. And we're going to set the text for the labels. So after when, there's going to be a comma and the word text equals, and this is going to say first name, end quote, in parentheses. And this one's going to say last name, end quote, in parentheses. And we need to put them on the screen. Well, there's multiple ways of putting things on a screen using tkinter. There's one way called frames and packing. Well, I think that the way we're going to do it is actually easier to understand. And what this does is it kind of divides it up into a grid to where the top of the window is considered row 0, and the next line is called row 1, and the next line is called row 2, just kind of like a spreadsheet. And then it also has columns. So the first column is column 0, and the second column down is column 1. And the columns in the rows kind of resize themselves according to what you insert into them. Well, we want our labels to be in the leftmost, right? So that's going to be column 0. And we want it to start at the top in the next line. So that's going to be row 0 and row 1. So we're going to call L1.grid. And we're going to say that we want you, Mr. L1, to be in rows equal to 0, column equals 0, right? The leftmost corner. I'm just going to copy and paste that because an L2 is going to be in the same thing, except it's going to be in row 1, column 0, right? It's going to be right underneath it. Let's run it and see. There we go, first name and last name. All we're going to need is a button down here as well, but we need to add our entry fields. And the entry fields need to be hooked up with a string variable so that when the user types in something, we can check with the string variable to see what they typed. Now, tkinter needs a special string, not the kind of strings that we've been using. Need something a little bit more sophisticated. So we're going to make something called T1, and I made it lowercase in my last example, so I'm going to go with that. Even though I've made all these controls uppercase, I guess I'm going with the idea that all the widgets begin with uppercase letters. Well, one reason I did is just because a lowercase L looks like a 1, right? And that kind of looks like 11. Anyways, T1 is equal to, and this has a very particular uppercase, lowercase, string var, string var, string variable, string var, where S is capitalized and V is capitalized. And we need our parentheses because these are function calls as well. And how about T2 is equal to string var. All right, now we're going to create 2 entries so that they can type in their first and their last name, because that didn't change anything on the screen, right? So I'm not going to go ahead and run it. We haven't put anything on the screen. We'll know that we're putting something in the screen when we have another reference to the when to our window. So E1, our entry 1, is equal to entry, parentheses, when, comma, and we need to specify our text variable. So we're going to say text var. Kind of wish I said string var. Oh, Siri, go away. I don't know what I said there. All righty. Text var equals T1, right? Because E1 is going to be hooked up to this string variable. And E2 is going to be the same thing except hooked up to T2. So I'm just going to copy and paste and change the 1s to 2s. E2 and E2. Let's run it now. I haven't put them on the screen. I forgot to call a grid, right? I need to call grid on them and to set them in the row 0 and 1, but they're going to be 1 column over, right? I could just copy these statements, or I could type it in again. And I'll type it in again. Don't need to be that lazy. E1 is equal to, no, wait. E1.grid, row is equal to 1, comma, column is equal to 0. E2.grid, wait, it's still row 0. I've got that reversed, right? Because I want first name and the entry field to be right next to this one. So I want it to be in the, I should have copied and pasted it, right? I want it to be in the first row, but one column over, right? So that E1 is sitting next to L1. It's to the right of it. So it needs to have a higher column number. And then E2 is going to be in row 1 column equals 1. Now that I've added them to the grid, we will see them when we run them, right? I wonder if there's a way to get this to pop into the middle of the screen. Place TK window in screen position. That didn't work. tkinter window center of screen. How to center a window on the screen in tkinter. Looks like we could do it with this code. Am I going to copy and paste that? Am I going to try to understand it? Yeah, I don't think I am. But what are they doing? They're calling some application function call that gets the so-called screen geometry. And from the screen geometry, we can get the height and the width of it, and we can center it. And let's not. We're just going to leave it where it is. All right. Now we need a button for them to click. But for there to be a button to click, we need a function. This function needs to be able, this function is what the button calls when it is clicked. And we have to define that function because otherwise the button doesn't know what to do when it's been clicked, right? So we're going to define a function called clicked. And right now, all it's going to do is print, I've been clicked. Now we need to create the button that's going to call that. And we're going to put it on row 2. So B1, as if we're going to create more than one button, we're not, is equal to button, parentheses, window. It has to be attached to that window. Kind of wish I'd been putting spaces here now that I see that. All right, so in that window, we need to put some text, right, so that they know what it says. I mean, like, click me, right? Yeah, I'm going to make the text say hello. And I don't know why I'm putting so much spaces there. I don't think that makes it that much easier to read. But we have to also specify what function gets called when the button is clicked. And we do that with command. Command is equal to clicked, parentheses in parentheses. And wait, take those off. That would be very bad. And I'll tell you why it would be bad. If those parentheses were there, it would call that function immediately as soon as that line was run in the program. Well, we don't want it to call that function immediately. We want it to wait until the user clicks on it. And so I'm not going to put the parentheses because the parentheses make a function call, right? If you put parentheses after something, like a print statement, it makes it a function call and it runs it immediately. I don't want to do that. Of course, we have to put it on the screen with the grid. B1.grid. Let's put this one on row 2. Column equals 0. 9. All right, there we go. Row 2 is not defined. It's because you're supposed to say row equals 2. Excuse me. Forgot my equal sign. There we go. Right. All right. Now, I'd rather the button be kind of more in the center, right? It needs to span 2 columns so that it'll actually be, you know, somewhere in the middle. So there's another thing we need to add here, which is row span equals 2. Occupy 2 columns in the row. Actually, it's supposed to be column span, isn't it? Because we want it to span 2 columns. Column span equals 2. What would happen if we made a row span equals 2 as well? Might make it a larger button. I don't know. Let's take a look. Didn't care much about that row span. I'm going to delete that. But see, now it's centered. Let's make it a little bit wider, though. So when we create our button, we can specify its width. You can do this for any of these controls if you wanted to. If you needed this to be shorter, you could specify a shorter width. We'd have to figure out what width size would be good. I think I'm going to play with that, and then I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to add some stuff to this statement, and I'm going to remove it. So like, what if the width was 30? What would that look like for the E1 for the top entry field? Ooh, it's way big. It's right. I'd have to change the geometry of my application. The geometry call at the very top, remember that? We can make it like 400 rather than 300. I do not think it needs to be that wide. All right. So when we create our button, what would happen if we said width is equal to 20? So command equals clicked, comma, width equals 20. Let's see how that looks. Might be too large, might be silly looking. Let's make it smaller. Let's make it 10 wide. That's okay. I wouldn't mind if it was kind of centered on here. And if I wanted to do that, I'd probably just make it in column 1. Let's do that. We're going to take the row span out, the column span out and the row span out. And we're just going to start it off in column 1. See how that looks. I don't know. Did it look better when it was a little more over here? I'm going to add the column span back in and be done with it. Column span equals 2. Move it back over to column 0. And that's our final answer. All right. What if we wanted to change the background color? I don't remember how to do that. Is it as easy as just saying BG color equals yellow? Would that do it? Or is it background color or something? We can Google it up. Background color button tkinter. Oh, and you know what? I've already gone down this little rabbit hole. If I try to change the color of a button, it works on Windows. It doesn't work on the Mac. I'm currently using a Mac, so I'm not going to change the background color of it. How do you change the text color, though? Like if we wanted the text to be red. How to change the text color of a button. FG equals red. So it's FG. Well, that's pretty terse. Or you could call configure FG equals blue. Why not? Button.config FG equals blue. So after we add it to the row, b1.config parentheses FG equals quote blue end quote in parentheses. Just telling that button that we want, oh wait, not FG. Or FB. I know that I typed FB. FG, what does that stand for? I guess foreground. Not even foreground color. There we go. Like FG equals blue. I bet that'll work. Forget it. Boom. Gone. Not working. Okay. So we have a function that it can call, right? Oh, I see. I still had this line in there. That was the problem. So let me undo that deletion that I just made. Delete that and run it. Now our text is blue. Hey, maybe we could call .config, and it would set the color correctly. So let's try that. BG equals quote yellow. I want a blue on yellow button. It's going to be very garish. Nope, it didn't change that. But what if we wanted our input fields to be blue? I mean, to be, yellow backgrounds. I'm sure we could do that. Like if we copied that and we said entry 1 and entry 2. Since this part did not work for me, I'm going to remove that part. It would probably work for you. I'm going to remove it. All right. And so there we're changing, right? The way the text looks. Now that blue is hard to read on yellow. So I'm going to take those out, leave it with BG equals yellow though, set the color of both E1 and E2. And that's going to be the last minor little change that I make to it. But we still have a little bit more work to do, right? Because what is the hello button supposed to do? So if my name is Jeff Thompson and I click hello, I want it to print a message. Actually, I don't want it to print a message. I want to see it pop up on the screen. So we need to get the text out of these string variables. T1 will contain our first name and T2 will contain our last name. We don't need a print message anymore. I guess it doesn't hurt it to have it there, but all right. So the message that we're going to display, text equals hello, comma, end quote, plus T1.get. We got to get the text out of T1 plus a space because we want a space between the first name and the last name, plus T2.get, parentheses in parentheses, plus a quote like that. Now there's other ways we could have done that. We've been using this fashion recently where you put F in front of the string and then you use placeholders, hello, comma, and then placeholder 1, T1.get parentheses, end placeholder, and then another placeholder for the last name, T2.get parentheses, end placeholder, and an exclamation mark. I don't know which way you'd like better. I'm going to delete that one. It would work though. And then let's display the message on screen using the message box. And this is why we added this import way back when. Message box. Now, message box is not attached to a window, so I don't have to put WI in there. I don't know if that'd break it or not, but I need to put a title for it. That's the title of the message box, and I need to put the text. And this is messagebox.showInfo. If you change that word info to error, show error, it'll put a red icon next to it. We can run it both ways, see what we like. Right, but it's waiting for me to click it. I'm going to type in, John Jacob. I click hello, and it says hello, John Jacob. So that's what the message box does, and it displays this silly looking little pin icon. How's about I make it show warning? It puts a warning symbol there. Really don't like that little pin. Wonder if you can change that icon. And if we made it show error, it would show an error symbol instead. All right, we are done. We have created a graphical user interface. All righty, so about the final. The day of the final is supposed to be Wednesday, right? If we go and look at the schedule, Wednesday, 12:30 classes are supposed to hang out, from 12 to 2 o'clock, so we can take our final. I'd rather that we just get it out of the way, and I'd like for it to be pretty easy so that we can all just breathe a heavy sigh of relief. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make it an essay question, 3 essay questions. And they're not going to be hard essay questions. It's not going to be like you have to write term papers, or, paragraph long responses or anything like that. So what are the essay questions going to be about? Well, what have we learned about the logical structures that Python, without any programming, that programming involves? We've learned that we do sequential, right? And sequential are just when you have statements one after the other, or when they're in a line, right? And when they're in a column in flowcharting. So those are just statements one after the other. And then we have decision, or maybe the book called them selection. I don't remember which term the book calls them, which are just our if statements, right? Those are our diamonds on the screen. If the temperature is less than 100 degrees, do something kind of like that. And then we have talked about loops, which are also known as repetition, right? Those are our while statements and our for statements. And what are those used for? They just, repeat a block of commands a certain number of times. And then these are the 3 that the book specifies. And personally, I consider modules, which are functions, to be a 4th programming structure, right? Because what is a function? It's a block of code that has a name to make it really easy to call, right? I mean, we could call this function even without waiting for the button to be clicked, right? If I just add a call to clicked down here at the bottom, it's going to call that function even before the button is clicked. Boom. Well, didn't seem to, because I have these comments down here that are breaking everything. So let me start a triple comment. I mean, a triple quote. All right. And so it's going to pop the message up immediately. Hello. Not going to even wait for them to display that. And why did it do that? Because it's not letting me get rid of that. I seem to have a problem here. There, it went away now. All right. Because I have the function call here, right? I have the word that defines the function, and I have the parentheses after it. And so it jumps up here and it runs all the statements that are indented under it. And then it returns. If I wanted to pop up 2 messages in a row, I could do this, right? If I wanted to pop up 100 messages in a row, I would probably put them in a loop, because it'd be silly to copy and paste 100 times when I could write a loop. So I consider modules and functions a 4th logical structure. Now, we already know enough about sequentials that I'm not going to ask what that means, right? It's just the statements that are all in a row. And we understand if statements. We've been probably using if statements since the very first day of class, maybe the second day of class, right? So I'm not going to ask anything about those either. So what are we going to do for a final? I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and I just want you to fill in a couple sentences about each one. And don't stress overly about them. On the other hand, don't go just Googling up the answer and pasting it, because it'll look like something that somebody else wrote. And I would rather it look like something you wrote. And if you do a good job on this, right, if it looks like you know what you're talking about, I'm just going to give you 100 on the, and say you made 100 on the final, and that's that, right? That's what I want. So I will grade these quickly, and if it doesn't look like you know what you're talking about, then I'm going to talk to you about it, right? And you may actually have to take a final with multiple choice questions and stuff like that. Or if you feel like doing that, then let me know. Show up that day, and you can take a multiple choice test over this kind of stuff. Anyways, what are our essay questions going to be? There's one more thing that I say that if you understand, then you're a programmer. And what I've said more than once in the class is that if you get the idea of loops, and you get the idea of functions, and you get the idea of arrays, which Python calls lists, then you're a programmer. Yeah. Conceptually, if you get these things, these 3 things, then you understand programming. Now, obviously, it can get a lot more complex, right? That's kind of what it's about. Loops and modules and arrays. You got those concepts down, then you understand the fundamentals of programming. So the questions. Well, I actually created a Dropbox that already had them. Let's go and just take a look at that. I don't have to reword them and accidentally get the wording wrong over what I want this to be. So in the folder, in week 16 folder, there's something called last homework. And if we go and look, here they are. Explain what loops are and why you might use them. Okay, you know what a loop is. It's just I'm not going to even tell you, right? You know what a loop is. So explain it and why you might use them. And don't write, a thesis paper over it, right? Just a couple sentences explaining what a loop is and why you might use them. Explain what modules, functions are and why you might use them. And then lastly, explain what arrays are and why you might use them. You might give an example. And then answering these serves as the final exam. That makes sense? You answer these, and as long as it looks like you know what you're talking about, then I'm going to give you 100 on the final, and we say that's done. And I bet that everybody who's watching this is going to be able to do that. All right, does that make sense? Okay, then you're just going to go to the Dropbox for Lecture X and upload anything that you typed in or, whatever. Some comments saying that you watched the video and what you learned from it. And then you're going to go and you're going to create a little document. Could be a Word document, could be a text file, could be a Python file. I don't care, and answer these 3 things and upload it. Okay, so I'll add the comment that you don't have to go crazy. Just 2 or so sentences, right? Just 2 to 4 sentences. Per question is fine, right? You're going to take 2 statements, at least 2 sentences, because they're phrased as 2-part questions. Explain what loops are, that would be one, and why you might use them, that'd be the other. All righty. Hope that makes sense. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is where to go from here. When you take more classes, you probably already know that if you're in the cybersecurity track, then you're going to need scripting, right? CIT1113. I don't know if anybody's teaching that over the summer. I'm not teaching it over the summer. So, of course, you're free to take it with anybody you want. I am teaching that in the fall. So if you want to take it from me in the fall, the scripting course covers Python as well. And you already know the language. So you're already going to be 50 yards down the 100-yard, field. You're going to hit the ground running. You're going to do very well in the course. You're probably going to do better than the students who did not take fundamentals of programming. Or if you're in one of the CIT tracks where you're learning about databases and programming, then you're going to want something like the C programming language that is offered over the summer. It's also offered in the fall, right? So you're going to want to take C++, because I already said it was C++, right? And why don't I put C++ over here? So this is for the CIT degrees, right? The non-cybersecurity CIT degrees. And that's offered over the summer and the fall. Now, honestly, enrollment for summer is very low at this point, but if we got a couple more students in it, then I'm sure it would make. And so if you want to take C++ from me, well, I'm currently the only professor teaching C++, but you could jump in over the summer and knock it out, right, in 8 weeks. And it's also considered an intro to programming class. So you're going to learn the syntax of C++, and then you're going to wind up learning a lot of the same concepts. But the syntax is very particular, right? It's a completely different programming language. And so the concepts that we learn are going to be more sophisticated as well. So that's one of the ones you're going to want to take. And in the fall, you can take Java, right? You can take Intro to Java. It's another programming language. You're going to definitely want to take Intro to Java over the fall so that you can take Advanced Java over the spring, right? That makes sense? All right. So I'd love to see anybody who wants to take a summer course in the C++ class, right? I'd love to see all of y'all take my class, scripting, but there are other professors offering scripting as well. If you like me, then you can look for mine. If you hated me, then you can look for somebody else's. And then absolutely, if you're in one of the programming database tracks, then you're going to want to take Intro to Java and Advanced Java. And so this is the most sophisticated course in terms of programming concepts that we teach. And so if you are interested in programming, you're definitely going to want to be building towards that. All right, does that make sense, gang? Hope so. So I'll see y'all in a future semester, right? Just go ahead and do the essay questions that are going to serve as your final. And hope to see you soon. If you have any questions, please text me as always. Semester's not over yet, is it? So feel free. Got homework you need to do? Please do.